Hi, boys and girls. Today, I have something really important to share with you. You might have heard on the news or seen your parents watching something about a memorial. Today, 25 years ago, there was something that happened downtown in Oklahoma City, and it was called the Oklahoma City bombing. It might sound scary, but I have a book to share with you that kind of goes through a little bit about what happened that day. I contacted the author, and she said that we could share this with our class, and so I would like to read it to you, and hopefully it will help you understand a little bit about the importance of this day. The Survivor Tree, written by Gaye Sanders. Nearly 100 years ago, I was a tiny cutting from a great American elm tree. A loving family planted me in their yard as the horses and wagons clopped along the dirt road of a town called Oklahoma City. That was the day that was the beginning of my story. The children and I grew up as this new Oklahoma town was getting bigger all around us. The dirt roads turned to gravel roads, and they turned into paved streets. Cars started being up and down those roads instead of horses and buggies. Men came and built tall buildings. They were all over Oklahoma City. Those were exciting days. As the years went by, I learned that some days can bring sadness. The family that planted me and loved me had to move away from me. When moving day came, I was able to give them shade one more time as they came and hugged me and waved goodbye. That day left me all alone for the first time. It wasn't long before big machines came in and they tore down some of the houses around me. Then it wasn't long and workers with hammers and nails came. They were building something new. Every day the workers would take a break and they would come eat lunch in the shade of my branches. Those were productive days. One afternoon, when the building was nearly finished, I overheard some workers talking as they ate their lunch in my shade. The boss says this tree's got to go. We can't cut this tree down. It's the only shade around. Their words worried me, but no one came to cut me down that day. I was still there on March 22nd, 1977, when the building opened, and there was a huge celebration. They called that building the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. That federal building was a really busy place. People came and went, all dressed up, coming to work. Best of all, there was children that came every day because there was a daycare inside the Murrah building. And each day those children would come and play under my branches. I stretched them out as far as I could so that they could get out of the hot Oklahoma sun. And every day a nice lady with a big red hat would also come and eat her lunch with me. Those were useful days. One bright April morning, as I waited for the children to come out and play, I watched as this beautiful city started another day. I didn't feel anything different in the air, and I didn't notice there was a big yellow truck parked right by the building. All of a sudden, there was a very loud sound. The ground shook, and I heard windows breaking. It was an explosion. It was so loud that people more than 50 miles away heard it. Then there was silence. That was the day that the clock stopped at 9:02 a.m. What I saw next was stranger still. People weren't running away from the big explosion at the building. People ran towards it, and then I realized those were helpers. They were coming to help the people that were inside the building. That was a day for courage. Help came first from Oklahoma, but then it came from everywhere. By the end of that day, helpers came from Arizona and New York. The helpers brought rescue dogs, and those rescue dogs had special little shoes on their feet to protect their feet. The dogs and their helpers searched for days and days from the morning until the nighttime. to try to help anyone they could. Sometimes the helpers and their dogs would come and lean against my trunk for a little bit of rest. I didn't really have much shade to give them because all of my leaves were gone too from the explosion. But I was glad that I could give them a place to rest. Because all of my leaves were gone, people were worried that I wouldn't survive that explosion. And once again, I heard people say that I needed to be cut down. It's got to come down. Then someone said, there's evidence in those branches. Look at it. Then another worker said, no, it's barely standing. It'll probably fall down on its own. Then a third one said with amazement in his eyes, wow, I can't believe that tree is still there. They did not cut me down that day. Instead, they climbed up into my branches and pulled all of the trash from the branches. Did they know that I was still alive that day? What was left of the Murrah building was put under a big, bright spotlight, and a fence went up to keep the area safe. And then, to everyone's surprise, people began to come to the fence, all times of the day or the night, whether it was raining or sunny. I watched as the visitors comforted one another, and they tied messages to the fence. There were teddy bears and pictures and flags, a rose, a fireman's hat, and even lots of drawings. The gifts that filled the fence over and over again. Each and every one was carefully saved when its time on the fence was over. Then 33 days later, America gathered again as the rest of the building came to the ground. No one would have to look at that anymore. But the fence, it stayed there, and people, they still came. Those were healing days. The first summer after the bombing was followed by the first fall. The trees in the neighborhood turned bright with color and then were softly covered in the snow of winter. And through it all, there I still stood, waiting. Those were uncertain days for me. Then springtime came, and I felt new leaves start to grow. I knew that I was healing just like the people of Oklahoma City were healing too. When my first leaf appeared, it caused quite a stir. The tree, they shouted, it survived. That was a day of promise. The news spread all over Oklahoma, the country, and then the whole world. And people started calling me the survivor tree. The people still come to the fence, but now they also come to see me. As once the little children and the nice lady had done, they came and sat under my branches. They said I gave them hope too, hope that they could survive despite what happened. My days had purpose once again. When we gathered that first April to remember the 168 people we lost on the 19th day of April of 1995, I was there, as I always had been. I was a tree that had been planted in love, and I became a symbol that love always wins. The families that left that day left with seedlings for me to plant at home, a remembrance of their loved ones and a tradition that still follows to this day. My offspring now grow in every state in the Union, including at the memorial site of the September 11, 2001 World Trade Center. It has been 25 years since the world went silent on that beautiful, clear April morning. But every single day, people still come. And now, below me, there's a park with 168 chairs. One for each person that we lost that day. One is for the nice lady who no longer comes to lunch with me. There's 19 smaller chairs for the children who once played in my shade. And there's one for the nurse who chose to run toward the building on that scary day. Now people from all over the world come to stand by me, and they remember. They remember what happened that day, and they wipe their tears, and they say they will never let anything like that happen again. And when they leave, they promise to teach their children about love. They promise to teach their children how to be kind. Because we will never forget April 19th, 1995. Written by the Survivor Tree, it says, "The spirit of this city and this nation will not be defeated. Our deeply rooted faith sustains us." I hope this book helps you to understand how important this day is in history for the state of Oklahoma. And I hope that you can also see that there's helpers everywhere. If you have questions or anything about this book or about what happened 25 years ago, please know that you can talk to your grown-up at home. You can talk to your teachers when you Zoom with them, and we're happy to answer any questions that we can for you. I hope you guys have a good day.